A knowledgeable one. When I return to work, how will it affect my housing benefit?
If you really want to know, BBC Knowledge, the new digital TV channel with internet support, is the answer. BBC Knowledge. Call us for more information.
Welcome to the newest digital channel on the BBC, and remember, knowledge is power. Jam-packed and foil-wrapped for freshness, this is BBC Knowledge. Welcome to today, Thursday the 24th of June, 1999. Now on BBC Knowledge, with something fishy going on, here's Dynamo. This is BBC Knowledge, and this, bad jokes and all, is Dynamo.
BBC Knowledge, from small acorns, the odd remarkable tree. You're watching Science on BBC Knowledge with Moments of Genius.
This is BBC Knowledge, Seeing Salvation.
You're watching BBC Knowledge.
What is billionaire Sheldon Adelson's extraordinary quest? Find out in the mission after Tools of the Trade. Andy follows his passion and Vanessa continues her campaign. Live stuff in 50 minutes after one man tries to make his dream come true on BBC Knowledge.
Now exclusive to BBC Knowledge, our weekly update on the lives and loves of the people of Saint-Tropez.
BBC Knowledge continuing a special week featuring some of the world's great detectives and their creators.
That's it for us tonight. As you've heard, an exciting beginning for a brand new channel is only hours away. BBC4 starts this evening at 7 o'clock. We look forward to what's to come, but from all of us here at BBC Knowledge, it's good night and goodbye.
This is BBC4. Good evening and welcome to the launch of Britain's newest channel, devoted to culture, music, documentaries, performance and world cinema. Your place to think. If you've just joined us from BBC Two, welcome to BBC4's permanent home. In just over an hour, we pay tribute to the legendary talent of Peggy Lee. And here's a taste of the rich mix of performance on offer from BBC4. Good evening and welcome to BBC4. We've just about recovered from our launch last night. Tonight, we've the Welsh National Opera's Madame Butterfly. That's in an hour. And before that, in just a moment, the raw operatic talent of South Africa's townships is harnessed in a breathtaking production of Carmen. From the townships of South Africa to Cardiff, and a classic production of Madame Butterfly, specially filmed for BBC4, performed by the Welsh National Opera and introduced by Charles Hazelwood. Last night, Robert Hughes presented an absorbing portrait of Spanish artist Francisco de Goya. Now his story gets the cinematic treatment in this epic biography, set at the end of his life when an exile in France. In Spanish with English subtitles and, as you'd expect, containing some violent scenes, BBC4 presents Goya in Bordeaux. BBC4 is home to a rich mix of performance. Here's a preview of what's to come. Ambition and intrigue now on BBC4. From Watergate to Resignation, we begin the first of a two-part profile of the secret life of Richard Nixon. World cinema, Hollywood blockbusters and the classics are all coming out on DVD. Stuart Maconie casts a critical eye over the latest releases now on BBC4, half an hour later than billed, in the DVD collection. Now, half an hour later than billed, due to the extension of our first live performance earlier tonight, BBC4 continues to tell the outrageous, definitive history of Britain's own modern art revolution. There are some strobe lighting effects and strong language, as you might expect, in part 2 of Brit Art. And you don't have to wait until next weekend. We begin our celebration of the Walton Centenary now on BBC4, as Birmingham Royal Ballet perform 2 settings of his music from the company's recently refurbished home, where Deborah Bull is waiting for us. The French Revolution triggered a wave of fear and terror that got the British building fortresses and castles like they never had before. Now on BBC4, Dan Cruikshank recreates the horror of an invasion by the French. And the moving story of female-to-male transsexual Robert Eads is this Thursday's Storyville at 9 o'clock. This is BBC4, now the talk show with the journalist and art critic Voldemar Januszczak. It all gets surreal from now on here on BBC4. Jonathan Meades traces the development of surrealism in an hour, followed by Dali's disturbing classic film Un Chien Andalou. And Dali's success gets him into hot water first. There's very strong language and strobe effects as Stephen Fry, Ewan Bremner and an impish cast present Surrealissimo. It's all still a bit strange here on BBC4, and there's more strong language as Jonathan Meades gets inside the world of Dali, Breton and co. to chart the development of the Surrealists. An invasion by Germany and the pernicious ideology of Adolf Hitler threatened our very existence, and the English Channel was no longer protection to the threat from above. This is BBC4. And this is BBC4, now the talk show with Maria Misra. And Storyville, following Robert Eads' moving story, is tomorrow at 9. In half an hour, actors from theatre, film and television discuss the challenge of playing Hamlet. First on BBC4, following his highly acclaimed production, Peter Brook discusses the inspiration for his work in conversation with Sir Richard Eyre. With scientists already undertaking the first cloning experiments, can we trust them with the responsibility of looking after our interests? Now, BBC4, with the Royal Society and Radio 4's Today programme, hosts a unique debate on the wide-ranging issues surrounding genetic experimentation. It's presented by John Humphreys. As well as acclaimed and thought-provoking theatre, BBC4 screens the best of recent international cinema. Here's a preview. Good evening, welcome to BBC4. Later tonight we've the first of our Readers and Writers roadshows, bringing authors face to face with the people who buy their books. That's at 8:30. First tonight, Julian Richards uncovers the blood of the Vikings. And this is BBC4 with the very first Readers and Writers roadshow, presented by Kate Moss. We've a time... BBC4's Readers and Writers Roadshow is the first ever weekly book programme to be broadcast throughout the year. It's reached Colchester now, where Kate Moss and guests explore the different perspectives that literature takes on history. Now on BBC4, Helena Kennedy encounters some very distressing scenes as she journeys to Rwanda to profile the work and life of a secretive and controversial world figure. And tonight we've Edward Yang's epic award-winning drama, A One and a Two. That's in half an hour. First on BBC4, a review of the best new and classic DVD releases with Stuart McConey. Paintbrushes and chainsaws at the ready now as BBC4, with some strobe effects, reveals the candid, bitchy and highly entertaining unofficial history of Brit art, in the words of the people who made it happen.
What it takes to keep a huge media empire very much a family affair. Now on BBC4, an inside look at the Murdoch dynasty. Hello, tonight on BBC4, Wind in the Willows meets Swallows and Amazons for a big read Battle of the Books at 8:30. Then we mark 50 years since the death of British contralto Kathleen Ferrier in a moving portrait which reveals the woman behind the amazing voice. That's at 9. And don't miss Alan Davis and Joe Brand on angels, Alsatians and goodness knows what else in brand new QI, presided over by the lovely and fragrant Stephen Fry. That's at 10:30. How an art historian found playing the undercover game almost impossible when confronted with a long-lost Rubens. Art crime in 10 minutes on BBC4 after the business confessions of Mr. Clockwork Radio, Trevor Bayliss. Very small Rubens paintings were stolen from Spain in 1985 and found their way to Sweden and Miami. Art crime next on BBC4. Small is Beautiful, first on BBC4, and very elusive indeed. Art Crime tells the story of an art historian enlisted to help with an elaborate undercover sting who got completely overwhelmed by a very tiny Rubens. Now on BBC4, the history of one of the most unlikely scientific pioneers of our age, the laboratory map.
Whilst members of the Athens Olympic Committee and senior politicians dodge journalists asking difficult questions, the architects, engineers, choreographers, musicians, lighting gurus and television producers all struggle on with their preparations. But will they meet the deadline now on BBC4 for the Games in Athens?
Hello, after tonight's prom on BBC4, should England have its own national anthem and should it be Jerusalem? The enduring appeal of one of our favourite hymns at 9:10. And for Thursday night comedy, not only is there brand new Arrested Development at 11:30, but also another chance to see Chris Langham as hapless documentary maker Roy Mallard. People Like Us begins at 11. The Vienna Philharmonic performs Bruckner's Symphony No. 8 in C minor. That's tonight's prom in half an hour. You're watching BBC 4.
Stirring stuff now on BBC 4 with strong language and some nudity. An anthem for England.
And this is BBC 4. Thursday night comedy with Chris Langham in People Like Us in half an hour on BBC 4 after QI. Now on BBC 4, another chance to see Chris Langham as Roy Mallard, merely an observer of People Like Us. Hello, after last night's announcement of the Booker Prize shortlist for 2005, tonight here on BBC 4, Kirsty Walk examines the 6 books and authors in contention at 10. Then an exclusive insight into the daunting job of being a Booker Prize judge. 5 members of the public were given just 3 weeks to read last year's long list. Book It Out is at 1. And don't miss the final part of the second High Mat at 10:30. This is BBC 4 with the last prom before the last night in half an hour. This is BBC 4 on the last night before the last night with Verity Sharp. This is BBC 4 taking a good look at the Booker Prize shortlist for 2005. Here's Kirsty Walk. Where and with whom will Herman end up? The final part with some sexual scenes now on BBC 4 of the second High Mat.
Our proms coverage begins here on BBC 4 tomorrow night at 7:30 as Sir Mark Elder conducts the Halle with music from Sibelius, Bartók and Janacek. But back to tonight now, and our Britain Through a Lens season continues. Behind the local TV camera, as household names were made, we go back to the early days of regional TV.
Remembering Australia's first superstar in Skippy in half an hour here on BBC 4. But now, first shown in 1999, from Sheffield to superstardom, it's the ever-evolving Human League.
Now on BBC 4, trade secrets, corporate espionage, some strong language and downright skullduggery. After all, all's fair in love and ratings. And as part of the pop season, BBC 4 takes a look at the genesis of the girl group craze tomorrow at 9 with Be My Baby. In the meantime, though, I've always wanted to say this, it's still number 1, it's Top of the Pops. Another chance to catch this week's visit to the sky at night here on BBC 4 this evening at 2:15. But first, we're reliving 1976 now with Top of the Pops.
Getting into the rhythm of Rio, the girl from Ipanema, Brazil, bossa nova and the beach coming up here on BBC 4. But first, it's back to the brilliant sounds and styles of 82. We've raided the archives to revisit the early career of the Rocket Man, from interviews to performances on the Old Grey Whistle Test and Top of the Pops. Elton John at the BBC in an hour. First, there's a storm brewing here on BBC 4. In an hour, examining the literary giant V.S. Naipaul and his complex cultural legacy. The trouble with Naipaul here on BBC 4. First, with scenes some viewers may find upsetting, Michael Mosley goes well beyond the call of duty inside Porton Down.
Another pioneer, guitar playing to die for, hypnotic energy and that raucous voice. Chuck Berry in concert in an hour. And this just puts you in the best mood. Top of the Pops, 1985 big hits on BBC 4.
BBC 4's Music Night is firmly, utterly, unashamedly stuck in the 80s tonight. Moments of pure magic in the reunion of Soft Cell, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye in an hour. After the stars of 1989 tell it like it was. There's Strong Language with Top of the Pops.
Revelations and surprises from the mission to Saturn. Goodbye Cassini, hello Saturn with Horizon in half an hour. First, BBC 4's seeking out alien worlds and even alien moons with Maggie and Chris. A group of West Virginians taking on a powerful corporation over contaminated waste, poisoning America from Storyville in an hour. First on BBC 4, the spectacular end of a life-changing mission.
Time for the final double bill of Below the Surface now on BBC 4. With tension spraying to the quick, who will win this game of hide and seek? With strong language from the start and some violent scenes, enjoy the trip.
A killer confesses but changes his story. What's the truth in Storyville? Killing for Love tonight at 10:30. Now on BBC 4 with strong language and violent scenes from the start. What can Martin remember in Beck?
Now on BBC 4, it's All Aboard with Michael Portillo on a great American railroad journey.
You're watching BBC 4. The next programme is Signed. A hidden Victorian history in an hour, a brutal tale of empire and resistance in the Punjab, the stolen Maharaja, Britain's Indian royal here on BBC 4. First, further back to the Stuarts. Lucy Worsley sorts fact from fiction as she investigates the reign of Queen Anne. As the 75th anniversary of the partition of India approaches, Dr. Sona Datta explores the subcontinent's rich history now on BBC 4, revealing Pakistan's intriguing multicultural past in The Treasures of the Indus.
Enjoy a mindful meander now on BBC 4 and take in some stunning scenery. There's nothing better than a good walk.
I'm sure Hyacinth would very much approve of her new home here on BBC 4. We don't let our standards slip. It's keeping up appearances. You're watching BBC 4. The next programme is Signed. Groundbreaking drama from the archives now on BBC 4. The Roads to Freedom continues now with scenes some of you may find upsetting.
The story of a rock star rebel and Prince of Darkness. In his own words now on BBC 4, strong language and scenes you may find upsetting. Ozzy Osbourne seems to have had his 9 lives. Now he tells the story of all of them. Now on BBC 4, it's All Aboard with Michael Portillo on a great American railroad journey.